Okay, so you're all ready to go. You've tested your app on a range of devices. You've set up all the app icons and launch images, and you've checked against Apple's specifications. You're pretty certain you've made a fantastic app. So, how do you get it on the App Store? Well, the place to begin is developer.apple.com, and then go over and click Account. Now, for submitting apps to the App Store, you do need a paid developer account. If you haven't signed up for that there'll be a button to join the Apple Developer Program here, and you'll need to click on that and go through the process of paying the $99 for the annual membership of the Apple Developer Program. That's all fairly straightforward though. What you need to do once you've done that is to go to Certificates, Identifiers, and Profiles. And this is where essentially we prove that your computer or your copy of Xcode is able to upload and submit versions of your app. And we begin by adding an app ID. So this is the bundle identifier that we're used to seeing in Xcode. So then just jump back over to Xcode and select your bundle identifier. You'll find it, if you're not already there, by clicking on the app name in the left and then the top of General Settings. It doesn't really matter what the bundle identifier is. It's never going to be made public, but it does need to be unique. So paste that in to where it says bundle ID and then give the app name. So I'm going to call this Cat Years 2016. And we're registering an explicit app ID here for one particular app. If you're using any of these services, then you should select those there. If not, then continue. And just check that that's all as it should be, and then click register. Okay. Now that we have our app ID, we're going to create our certificate, which will give us the right to edit and submit our app. So create a new certificate. We want a production App Store certificate. Press continue. And now we need to generate a certificate signing request or CSR file to identify our computer. So we do that using keychain access. So I've just opened Spotlight with Command Space and run keychain access. And you should see a whole bunch of certificates on your machine, even if you haven't created any yourself. And then you can see in the instructions here, we need to select Keychain Access, Certificate Assistant, and request a certificate from a certificate authority. So let's do that. Keychain Access, Certificate Assistant, and request a certificate from a certificate authority. Then pop in your email address. Confirm your email address. And it's a little bit easier to just save it to disk. You can specify the key pair information if you want, but there's really no need to, unless you particularly want to. Then we save that on the desktop. Done. And now we can go back over and continue our certificate creation process and upload our CSR file. There it is. And continue. So this will identify our Mac to Apple as part of this particular certificate. Great. So now we've got our certificate, so we can download that. So that's our iOS distribution.car file. The next and final thing we need to create is a provisioning profile, which brings all of this together. So let's add a new one of those. Again, we want an App Store. The app ID is Cat Years 2016. And then make sure we get the right one. It was the one that expired July 13, 2017. And profile name, I'll call this Cat Years Provisioning Profile 2016, just to be clear. Continue, and now we can download that particular provisioning profile. Wonderful. And then back over to Xcode. And if you're signed in with your Apple ID, which you should be, but if you're not, just click Xcode Preferences. And if you don't see your Apple ID there, then click plus and sign in. And then you should be able to select the default team. And with any luck, it will then pick up that bundle identifier that we just created and consider that signed. Okay, right. So now we've done the first big chunk, and probably the most confusing as well. So if you've got through that, you're doing well. We now go over to a different section of the Apple developer website, and that's itunesconnect.apple.com. And this is where we'll be creating our app and adding things like screenshots, descriptions, prices, all of that sort of thing. So click on My Apps and then click the plus to create a new app on the left. So choose the platform, choose the name, choose the language, try and get it right, and then choose the bundle ID. There it is, cat years 2016. And for the SKU, I would just use the bundle ID again. So it's just a unique ID, unless you need something else in particular. That's usually simplest. Okay, so here we go. Now we can put in all of the details for our app. So we've got name, URL for privacy policy, category, you can edit the licensing agreement, you can add a rating, and then save that information. And then over to pricing and availability. So you can choose a free app, or you can choose from a number of tiers to decide how much the app is going to be. And there's various other options that probably you're not going to pay too much attention to first time round. Okay, again, press save. Then we can jump over to features, where you can add any special features that you want for your app. So in-app purchases, game center, encryption, promo codes, etc. Test flight is a way of distributing your app to specific beta testers before it completely goes live. We're not going to cover that here. And then activity shows the builds that have been submitted. For us, that's none yet. So back over to App Store to add more information. So next, click on 1.0 Prepare for Submission. And this is where we add our screenshots. So we can bring in the one that we made earlier, which is there. Just drag it in like that, and that will then upload. And you do need screenshots for every size of device that you're going to be supporting with your app. But I'll just upload the one for now. Here you put your app description, so important there for ranking on the App Store to get your keywords into that description, but also of course make it really clear what the app does. And you can add, again, keywords to describe your app and support URL and a marketing URL. And there's extra options for Apple Watch there as well. So take a fair bit of time over that. It's important to get it right, and it will make a big difference to how many people download your app if you've got a good description, good screenshots, etc. So then submit for review. It's probably... I'll just put in some values here, see if we can get enough information to get to the submit for review. Okay, so we'll hit our build in a moment, but we've got an app icon option. There should be in our cat icon iOS folder. If you go for the 2x there, that should be the right size for that. There we go. Lovely. And you can just put your name there or the name of your app development company. And then put in your details. We don't need a demo account. Okay. And then you can choose to either automatically release this version as soon as it's okayed by Apple, or to manually release this version on a particular date. And there we go. We've got all our details successfully put in. So now we can submit for review, except for that one little thing, and that's actually uploading the app. So the final stage, here we go, back over to Xcode. And now we can click Window and Organizer. And that will allow us to look at all of our apps there. And if we select the one that we want to upload and click Upload to AppStore, again, we can choose the development team. And if you get this error, you just need to go back to your iOS distribution certificate and double click it to make sure that it's in your keychain access app, and then try again. Then it will, with any luck, prepare an archive for you. And then you can check, make sure everything's all right with the provisioning profile, etc. And then click Upload. And that will take a little while, depending on how big your app is. I would always allow access to keychain. And then it will just begin the upload process. And unfortunately right now with this beta version, I get a bunch of errors. So you'll need to use a non-beta version of Xcode. But if you do and you follow all the steps precisely, you should be able to go back over to your browser, and then this bit will then be complete, and you can complete the submit for review. And then you sit back and wait for Apple to decide whether to publish your app or not. Now, of course, once you've published your app, you need ways to market it. And it can be difficult to market an app that's in the App Store because it's not easy to show people that don't have their phone with them, or even people that don't have an iOS device, what the app actually does. So we're going to get around that by creating a marketing website for your app using the free hosting that comes with the course. And we'll be doing that in the next section.